Princess Bagaya and the Price of Defiance, a story of beauty, power, and resistance. When power falls in love with defiance. In the stormy years of Idi Amin's dictatorship, when fear stalked the streets of Kampala like a shadow that never lifted, one woman stood out, not just for her beauty, but for her courage to resist the most dangerous man in Uganda. Her name was Princess Elizabeth Bagaya, a woman of royal blood, international acclaim, and undeniable brilliance. She was celebrated across continents as a lawyer, diplomat, and model. But in the eyes of Amin, she was something else, a prize to be possessed. Her refusal to yield to his advances was not just a personal choice. It became a dangerous act of defiance against a tyrant who believed nothing, and no one was beyond his reach. In Amin's Uganda, where silence was survival and submission was expected, Bagaya chose neither. She chose dignity. And for that, she paid a price. Born into royalty, shaped by the world. Elizabeth Christabel, Edith Bagaya, was no ordinary woman. Born in 1936 into the royal family of Toro, one of Uganda's ancient kingdoms, she inherited a legacy of prestige. Her father, the Omukama of Toro, had nurtured her into a woman who would later embody both African tradition and modern sophistication. Her education reflected that blend. Bagaya studied law at Cambridge University, becoming the first female barrister from East Africa. She carried with her not only the elegance of a princess, but also the intellectual sharpness of a scholar trained in some of the world's finest institutions. By the late 1960s, Bagaya had become an international figure. She modeled for Vogue, graced the covers of major magazines, and represented Uganda with elegance and charm. The Western press adored her, describing her as a symbol of Africa's new modern womanhood. She was proof that beauty and brilliance could coexist in one figure, challenging stereotypes about African women at a time when the world still held narrow views. But fame, in the wrong political context, can be dangerous, and in Uganda of the 1970s, fame was a spotlight that attracted predators. Amin's eye falls on Bagaya. When Idi Amin seized power in January 1971, Uganda was plunged into a nightmare of unpredictable violence. Ministers disappeared, military officers were executed, and ordinary citizens lived in constant fear of being accused of disloyalty. Yet in the midst of this chaos, Amin cultivated a bizarre obsession with women. He flaunted multiple marriages, surrounded himself with beauty queens, and often used his political power to force romantic relationships. For him, women were not companions. They were trophies to be displayed and controlled. It was inevitable, then, that his attention would turn to Bagaya. She was everything he was not. Refined, educated, respected internationally. For Amin, who thrived on domination, the idea of possessing her was irresistible. He believed that by marrying Bagaya, he would not only feed his personal ego, but also elevate his global image. After all, what could flatter his dictatorship more than being paired with a princess who was also a star in Western circles? The sudden appointment. The moment came in February 1974. At a high-profile meeting with foreign dignitaries, Amin stunned the audience. Without warning, he announced that he had fired his foreign affairs minister, Michael Ondoga. In the same breath, he declared Princess Bagaya the new Minister of Foreign Affairs. It was a dramatic spectacle, characteristic of Amin's style of governance, impulsive, theatrical, and ruthless. Ondoga, humiliated before the world, clapped along with everyone else, knowing his life was already in danger. Days later, his mutilated body turned up in a mortuary. For Bagaya, the appointment was both an honor and a trap. On the surface, it was a recognition of her talent. But beneath, it was Amin's strategy to keep her within his reach. By elevating her to one of the highest offices in government, he ensured proximity. He was no longer merely a distant admirer. He was now her boss. The tyrant's advances. From the beginning, Bagaya's work as foreign affairs minister was complicated by Amin's interference. He often acted as though he was his own minister, inserting himself into her duties and undermining her authority. But the greater challenge was personal. Amin pursued her relentlessly. He would comment on her looks in cabinet meetings, invite her to private dinners, and pressure her to join him in leisure activities meant for his male ministers. He even joked openly, "Am I not a man? And is Bagaya not a woman?" A crude attempt to normalize his intentions. When subtle charm failed, Amin turned to intimidation. He sent emissaries to ask if she would marry him, making it clear that refusal was not an option. Yet Bagaya never gave him the answer he wanted. Her resistance was both quiet and resolute. She neither insulted him nor encouraged him. Instead, she created a shield of silence, a survival tactic in a regime where saying no outright could be fatal. But Amin, unused to rejection, grew increasingly frustrated. A dangerous brilliance. Despite the personal harassment, Bagaya excelled in her role. She represented Uganda at international forums, defended Amin's policies before skeptical audiences, and secured important assets, such as embassy buildings in Rome and New York. In November 1974, Amin sent her to New York to address the UN General Assembly. Fearing she might defect, he showered her with public praise, even declaring that she was more intelligent than U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. Bagaya delivered a powerful speech, earning ovations from delegates. For a moment, it seemed her brilliance might even shield her from Amin's wrath. But brilliance in Amin's Uganda was also dangerous. The dictator did not tolerate figures who outshone him. Bagaya's international acclaim fed his insecurity. Instead of rewarding her, he punished her. Humiliation and house arrest. Shortly after her triumphant return, Bagaya was placed under house arrest. The reasons were never made clear. Some accounts suggest Amin ordered her hair shaved off, a cruel tactic designed to strip her of dignity. When she confronted him about an unjust fine, demanding explanations, Amin's anger exploded. Her boldness sealed her fate. In a regime where ministers clapped even as their colleagues were executed, Bagaya's insistence on fairness was viewed as rebellion. At a cabinet meeting soon after, she was summoned to Amin's office. She returned quietly, collected her belongings, and left without a word. Hours later, Amin announced she had been fired for allegedly engaging in a sexual encounter with a white man in a Paris airport bathroom. The accusation was absurd, even laughable. But in Amin's Uganda, truth was irrelevant. Lies were weapons. By spreading slander, Amin aimed to destroy Bagaya's reputation and justify his actions. Thus, on November 28, 1974, only 8 months after her appointment, Princess Elizabeth Bagaya was dismissed. The escape dismissal was not safety. Many of Amin's fired ministers never lived to tell their stories. Bagaya knew her life was at risk. On the night of February 8, 1975, with the help of allies, she was smuggled out of Kampala. Disguised as a simple village girl, she walked miles through bush and river to reach the Kenyan border. Every step was a gamble. Capture meant death. But courage carried her through. By crossing into Kenya, she left behind not just her ministerial post, but also a chapter of Ugandan history, where survival itself was a victory. Princess Bagaya's story is not just about one woman's rejection of a dictator. It is a reflection on the price of defiance in a world where power often preys on vulnerability. She embodied a paradox: adored abroad, yet endangered at home; respected internationally, yet humiliated by her own president. Her courage revealed the ugliness of Amin's rule, the way he turned personal desires into political weapons, the way he punished brilliance that did not bow. For Ugandan women, Bagaya became a symbol of resilience. She proved that even in the darkest times, dignity could not be forced. She refused to be reduced to a trophy in Amin's collection. She chose integrity over survival, and though it cost her career, it preserved her humanity. Legacy beyond Amin. After escaping Uganda, Bagaya rebuilt her life. She continued to serve as a diplomat, lawyer, and advocate for African women. Her autobiography, Elizabeth of Toro, The Odyssey of an African Princess, published in 1983, gave the world her side of the story. Her life reminds us that dictatorships may silence, but they cannot erase. The memory of those who resisted, quietly or boldly, outlives the tyrant. Amin's regime ended in 1979, his legacy stained with blood. But Princess Bagaya's name endures as one of courage. Why her story matters today. In today's world, where women continue to face harassment in politics, workplaces, and even within communities, Bagaya's defiance is not a relic of the past. It is a call to action. Her story forces us to ask, how many women still suffer in silence under powerful men who mistake authority for entitlement? How many careers are derailed because dignity is chosen over compliance? How can societies better protect women who dare to say no? Her courage speaks to every generation. Power should never demand submission at the cost of human dignity. Call to action, standing with courage. Princess Bagaya's resistance is a lesson that echoes beyond Uganda's history. It calls on us to stand with those who say no to injustice, no to harassment, and no to abuse of power. Her story should inspire us to build workplaces, governments, and communities where women are respected not for their beauty, but for their brilliance and integrity. It should remind us that dictatorships, whether political or personal, thrive on silence, but crumble in the face of courage. So let us carry forward her legacy. Let us celebrate the women who choose dignity over fear. And let us commit in our own lives to resist every form of tyranny, be it in a boardroom, a government office, or a household. Because courage, once chosen, is never forgotten.